Alright, what's going on, y'all? It's Cooper here, one half of FCSN. It's that time of the week to break down the college football playoff. I'm going to go ahead and give you guys my 4 teams on the bubble and my 4 in the playoffs. So with that said, let's go ahead and jump right into it. At the number 4 overall spot, I've got the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Their only loss is number 2, Florida State, and I think Notre Dame's going to be a team that wins out. And if they win out, there's not going to be many one-loss teams with as an impressive resume as Notre Dame. Everett Golson is legit. Their defense is pretty solid. It's a pretty overall well-rounded team. And like I said, there's not going to be many teams out there with one loss. They have such a resume as Notre Dame, and that one loss being the second best team in America. I have Notre Dame at the 4 overall spot. Move on with number 3, we got Alabama. Keep in mind, I'm not going to put a bunch of SEC West teams in here. I do not have Auburn on the bubble or in the playoff just because I have to pick between the two. Auburn and Alabama are going to play each other, and Alabama still has to play Mississippi State. So all this can change, but at the moment, at this point, if Auburn and Alabama were to play like next weekend with the momentum Alabama has, I would have them beating Auburn. So that is why I have Alabama at number 3 spot in the playoff and Auburn completely out of it. But keep in mind, Auburn fans, I do think your team legit, and they could be just in that 3rd spot, just like Alabama. It's going to come down to that game or whether Alabama beats Mississippi State or not. But having the 3rd overall spot, they've been rolling. The defense has been playing well. Amari Cooper is an animal, putting up huge numbers, especially last week versus Tennessee. Blake Sims starting to get a little bit more comfortable. The run game's been going. Alabama is a team with a lot of momentum right now, and I expect that to keep going for the next few weeks. Move on to the 2nd overall spot. I've got the Florida State Seminoles. They have a bye week this past week. They got Louisville coming up. Could be a trap game. You never know. It's at Louisville Thursday night. Anything could happen in that game. Florida State's been getting everybody's best shot. But overall, right now I have the 2nd overall spot. They beat Notre Dame in their previous game, and they're unbeaten, reigning national champions. Jameis is starting to get his rhythm back, starting to play a little bit better, and I have the number 2 overall spot. Move on to number 1 spot. I've got Mississippi State. They were tested over the weekend. It wasn't too much of a scare, but they were tested. I think you needed to see Mississippi State in a game like this, kind of a trap game, if you want to call it, at Kentucky. Kentucky's got a pretty good team. And Mississippi State rose to the occasion. They showed they can run the ball when they need to. They look amazing up front. The DB's kind of inconsistent play throughout that game, but up front in that front 7 and the offensive line, they just push and pound and ground you away. Mississippi State is a team that will wear you down, and then Dak Prescott can beat you over the top or make plays with his legs as well. I'm very impressed with the Mississippi State team, and I have them at the number 1 overall spot. If we were to have a national champion and this were the spots, I would have Florida State beating Alabama and Mississippi State beating Notre Dame, making the national championship Mississippi State versus Florida State. And I'm going to leave that to you guys in the comment section below. Who you think would win that national championship matchup if it came down to Mississippi State and Florida State. With that said, though, let's go ahead and jump into the bubble team. Alright, here's a look at my 4 bubble teams. At the number 8 overall spot, I got TCU Horned Frogs. And before I get into that, by the way, any of these 4 teams could easily work their way into the playoff. All these teams are going to play each other. Somebody's going to lose, somebody's going to win, and they can easily move their way up, and they're just as good, if not better, than some of the teams I have in the playoff. At the 8 overall spot, though, like I said, I have TCU Horned Frogs. They're leading the Big 12. They got a big game coming up versus West Virginia. And if they don't blow that 21-point lead in the 4th quarter to Baylor, they're going to be in that playoff. But they had that loss, and they got to work their way back up. That's what happens if you lose. But TCU, they've been pretty impressive outside that one loss. And they got a big game coming up. We'll see what goes with that. Move on to the 7th overall spot. I got Georgia. And a lot of you guys are going to be surprised with this and say, well, why do you have Georgia at number 7 in the playoff? Like, they're number 9 in the country. This is why. Georgia is in the SEC East. They are leading the SEC East, and I expect them to win the SEC East. Guess what happens if you win the SEC East? You go to Atlanta, play for the SEC Championship. That comes down to one ball game. You never know. I'm just throwing Georgia in there because if it comes down to one ball game, you never know what could happen. They win that SEC Championship. It's hard to deny them to the playoff no matter how many games they lose as long as they win that SEC East. We'll see what happens with that, though. I'm just saying don't sleep on Georgia if they slip their way to that SEC Championship. Like I said, one game, anything can happen. Move on, got Michigan State. They are in the playoff next week if they beat Ohio State and win out. They got Ohio State next week, I believe. That's going to mean everything for those 2 teams. Ohio State's not in here because of that. Michigan State and Ohio State basically are interchangeable going into next week. The winner of that game, I think, will be in the playoff if they continue to win out. That's going to be a big-time matchup. I'm looking forward to that one. Michigan State and Ohio State. I have Michigan State at the number 6 overall spot. At number 4 or 5 overall spot, I got the Oregon Ducks. I haven't been too impressed with Oregon lately, to be honest. I don't think they're as good as people make them out to be, but they're a very solid team. Marcus Mariota is playing very efficiently. He threw his first pick of the season last week. Like, he's been very efficient with the ball, and he's moving the ball downfield. That Oregon offense is tough to stop, but a little bit inconsistent in some other areas. I think they're a very beatable team. They have a chance to win out. They got Stanford coming up, but in the playoff, I just don't think they're at the same level as some of these other teams. We'll see what happens with Oregon, though. I'm not sleeping on them. I could definitely see them working their way into that playoff. With that said, though, let me just down in the comment section below if you agree with me, if you disagree with me, teams I'm sleeping on, teams I'm too highly on, and just overall just stuff like that. Follow me on Twitter at CooperFCSN. Like the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe for more videos like this. And this is Cooper signing out.